Alright, so just a few thoughts in regards to shopping in Lidl or Aldi, we'll say. Now I'm just going to speak personally about shopping in the local Aldi because that's where I was last night, but you know, you could probably make the same arguments about Lidl. You know, why are these places here? They're here due to Ireland's ever expanding population, which is mostly foreign population. Whether that be foreigners who've arrived in over the recent years, or whether that be the existing foreign population in Ireland who are here, you know, whatever it be, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, or more in some cases. So anyway, this is why you have the likes of Lidl's and Aldi's popping up everywhere. You know, they are for the most part catering to the ever expanding foreign population predominantly. Yes, Irish population to an extent, but the Irish population has only increased small amounts over the last few decades. You know, whilst the foreign population has exploded, as anyone can see walking around. And obviously, in recent years, it's gone totally bananas. Like, you know, since COVID times, it's really ramped up to sort of insanity levels. But anyway, this is why these companies are here, to make a decent profit off of this ever expanding, mostly foreign population in Ireland. And they're doing very nicely out of it, you can be sure of that. But, you know, it needs to be kind of considered, what is the impact of the likes of Lidl and Aldi in Ireland, you know? Because what you're aware of, as I drove into the local Aldi, there is, you know, it was whatever, 9:15, it was dark. So, you know, I realised I needed to get a few things before the shops close. And so I chose Aldi because it's open till 10. Drove up to it anyway. Hadn't been there since about, I don't know, maybe the end of last year or something like that. So it's 5-6 months. Driving in the driveway, I remember, oh yeah, God, it's really dark driving in here. You know, come down to the end of the driveway, take a sharp right turn, and it's and the car just bounces along, and you're like, what the hell? And I'd forgotten there's a load of potholes there, and they were still there from like 6 months earlier. They hadn't fixed them. Several potholes in a row. So like, you're struck, but your first experience coming into the local Aldi is this really poorly lit driveway, long driveway, and a section which is entirely potholes, where if you were to come faster than about, let's say, 20 miles an hour or whatever it is, you know, you could do a bit of damage to your suspension and your tires. Like, it's because these are fairly significant potholes, like, you know. So your first experience coming into Aldi is not a good one. So anyway, then I'm getting out of the car. The car park, you notice as well, is also quite poorly lit. And the first thing I hear is this like language. I can only describe it as a jungle language, you know. Like, I'm not saying that to be insulting. It just genuinely, it sounded like a language directly from the African jungles. And you're there, what the hell? What sort of language is this? You know, it is, honestly, it's like that Catherine Tate's sketch, you know, from several years ago. And it's just so jarring, and it's so completely the opposite of Irish. It is so completely the other side of what is Irish and what is not Irish. This is so un-Irish that it's almost, you almost can't put it into words. And you're there thinking like, what is that? Why is this? Why am I hearing this language that sounds like it's come directly from the depths of the African jungles? What the hell is this doing in Ireland, in my country? Like, why? You know, there's no good reason for why you should be hearing these utterly foreign, you know, so foreign as to be completely almost blows your mind. Like, you're like, what the hell is this? Like, what is this? You know, this is what's going through your mind, you know. So yeah, it's a couple of African people in the car park, and they're not quite shouting, but you know, that kind of loud voice thing over to each other, even though they're beside each other, but their voices are at such high volume that the entire car park hears it. Like, what the hell is this? And it's a reflection of, unfortunately, kind of third world standards, you know. This is kind of what Ireland is kind of descending towards. And to be honest, the Lidl and the Aldis contribute towards that, because they are, like I said, they are mostly to cater for Ireland's ever expanding foreign population, and a lot of that will be a non-European population. So you're talking about culturally very different peoples, and it's just very striking as you are walking. You haven't even got into the fucking Aldi yet, but already you've had that jarring experience, you've had that kind of off-putting experience. Then you arrive in, and obviously the clientele, you notice the clientele is it might not be predominantly foreign, but it's significantly foreign, we'll say. Probably every second person in there is not Irish, and of them, every second one of those is non-European. That is Lidl's, that is IKEA. There's another place that would come to mind if you ever want to feel like a foreigner in your own country. Go to IKEA and prepare for an eye-raising experience in terms of the demographics. That's the only way to describe it. And I would say IKEA is even worse in that respect than Lidl's and Aldi's. But still, it is still quite noticeable in the Lidl's and Aldi's, the demographics, and also of the staff as well, of course, who would be predominantly non-Irish, and a significant amount of them are non-European as well. So anyway, I'm going around the store, I'm doing my shopping, getting my bits and pieces, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's not convenient. Of course it's convenient to have a place open late. And and that serves not just the foreign population in Ireland, but also the Irish. There are obviously a significant amount of Irish that use it too, from people like me who occasionally use it to people who use it all the time. And that's up to them. And that's plenty of people will argue that, oh, what are you complaining about? Aren't you fierce? Isn't it fierce handy for you? You've got a place open late at night, down the road from you. You have nothing to be complaining about. And look, I get all that, but I'm just talking about the broader, the more holistic side of it, in terms of, what do these companies, these retail operations, what do they contribute to in terms of the social environment? And they contribute to a kind of lowering of standards, essentially moving towards a second or even third world level of standards, a normalization of those standards, in terms of their people they employ. They're predominantly foreign. That's very obvious, Maybe it varies from place to place, but certainly as you go more urban, you are talking a predominantly foreign employer, in terms of the people that they employ, shall we say, the staff working there. And that's fine, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, and it's obviously good that people are working and so on, and paying tax and all of that. But, you kind of notice too, as you're walking around, obviously it's a lot of foreign people working, not just working there, but also buying there as well. And there's when I was there last night, there's an African couple and their kid, and the kid is just sort of running around the place, and he's not, it's not like a 3 or 4 year old who's kind of a bit wild or whatever. And you get that, of course you get, and especially as you get into the more urban environments, you do get wild kids, and quite a few of these kids are Irish, and that is a clear fact. That's not to deny that, But this kid is 7 or 8, and he is just running fucking wild around the place, And the parents are doing nothing. They're just letting them run havoc, run wild around the place, and kind of a little bit impacting on customers around the place, And this is sort of my experience too when I was in London as well. And I noticed that amongst the Africans, sub-Saharan Africans, there was just this acceptance of letting the kids kind of do what they wanted and to be as loud as they wanted. And you get on a London bus and you will notice it is the African kids especially, the teenagers, and the girls more so than the boys. And the noise they make, there's simply no level of, no social awareness. It's no kind of sense of respect or politeness, or there's actually other people on this bus. We should be aware of that, and we shouldn't be roaring at the top of our voices. I know kids are going to be kids, I get that, and Irish kids and British kids will also be loud sometimes. Like, I get all that. But what I notice is the behaviour of the Irish and British kids, from what I can see, tends to sort of lower in the company of these foreign kids, and especially the African kids. That's what I would have noticed. So they kind of come down to the standards, the second and even third world standards of these foreign kids, rather than the other way around. And that's concerning, Whilst when the numbers were small, there was an element of, for the foreign kids and the foreign people in Ireland and Britain, they had to sort of conform to the norm, to the standards, the first world standards of Ireland and Britain, But now that there's obviously loads of them, they don't need to do that anymore, or they don't think they need to do that anymore. And so they are, there's a kind of a wildness there. There's a sort of chaotic kind of a disrespect, a lack of social awareness, and it is quite noticeable there, And that was a kind of a flashback for me when I saw this. And it's okay, it's one kid. It's one foreign, one African kid there. Parents not really caring too much about keeping any kind of control over him, But yeah, look, and I know if you go to, I don't know, maybe Clondalkin or Tala or Ballyfermot or wherever, and not just Dublin, there's some of the other cities as well around Ireland, you will get wild Irish kids as well. I know you will. But it is mostly in the urban settings. I'm not living in an urban setting. I'm living down the country more, so you don't tend to get the wild Irish kids down the country in general. Like the odd exception here and there, but in general, no. The Irish kids down the country, you don't tend to get that chaotic, fucking really kind of totally mad, wild kind of thing in the local shop. Like the parents, if they did start up, the parents would be like, cut that shit out, you're getting that, I'm fucking throwing you out unless you cop yourself up. It'll be nipped in the bud quickly. That's the thing. That doesn't tend to happen here in terms of the foreign kids, or in the African kids, in my experience, And it's not good, Anyway, so that was the next thing. So anyway, as I'm walking around getting my stuff, so there's that whole thing with the African kid, whatever. So then I'm going to get some fruit, and a lad comes in, a fella comes in, he's in his 40s, whatever, and he's got his GA jersey and he's got his shorts, and it looked like he's come in after a run or something, and it's just funny, we just looked at each other and actually said, how's it going, and just kind of said hello, and kind of familiarity of it, like, oh, thanks be to God, somebody normal, somebody Irish and somebody normal, a fella that looks like he's from, I don't know, Tipperary or Wexford or somewhere like that. You're like, oh Jesus, so there are Irish people, there are normal fucking people, thanks to God, and it's just that kind of moment of, we kind of had a moment looking at each other and kind of, I know, I get it, I know what you're thinking, I know, that's exactly what I'm thinking too, but yeah, Jesus. Anyway, so moving on from that, get to the cashier, putting my stuff on the counter, the kind of counters thing, the sort of like conveyor belt that kind of rolls along. But it seems to be going really fast, and I'm putting my stuff on that kind of rolling counter thing. And there's an Indian girl at the cashier desk, and I'm looking up at her and going, can you either slow that thing down or turn it, give me a chance to put my groceries up on the fucking counter, But no, she lets it kind of go flying on and on and on, and and all the groceries are all kind of totally separate from each other, and you're thinking, this is just ridiculous. Like, does she not see what's going on here? And finally she copped on, she realized, okay, yeah, I better give the guy a chance to get his stuff on the counter, without kind of having everything flying away from him, and so finally she copped on and she did that, and that was whatever. And then the black kid is there again, and at this stage the parents have kind of clamped down on him, and he's calmed down a bit. Thanks be to Jesus, like, it took you long enough to realise it, but you finally got control of your kid. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so then Get to the counter. The Indian lady is there. Now look, I get it, it's 20 to 10. It's getting closer to closing time. I appreciate that. But still, I don't think I've ever come across a cashier who is fecking the stuff, the groceries, at such a speed. Like I've literally have no time to get my stuff into the bags before. And the other way is at the Lidl and Aldi. There's very little space at the end of the counter where the cashier is to actually put your stuff into the bags, or you have to take it off and put it down into the bag. So it gets quickly very congested, especially if the cashier is fecking the stuff at you at a breakneck speed, which is what this one was doing, to the point where like I had some fish and she nearly fecked it onto the floor. Yeah, and I kind of looked at her, go, listen, can you slow it down here? Like, I mean, you know, where's the fire? I know it's getting near the closing time, but come on, a bit of fucking decorum, a bit of respect here. Like, I'm a customer. I don't deserve to be treated like a dog, you know. So anyway, yeah. Once she'd finished fecking the groceries at me, you know, and I was able to pay, you know, and whatever, you know, oh, cash or card, whatever, and I pay it, and it's like, Jesus. It's just this like relief, like, you know, thanks be to God, I'm fucking finished now with that. Like, I look, people are going to look at this. Some people go, oh, first world problems again, you know, like, you know, you're lucky you have foreign staff to actually work in the place, and you're lucky the place is open till 10, aren't you? And you're lucky you got cheap prices. Yeah, look, I know all that. Yeah, that's fair enough. But the bigger point is this kind of lowering the standards in general that comes with the Lidls and the Aldis. I really think they are contributing to that environment of lowering standards, of bringing us from a first through to a second, even to a third world level of standards, and normalizing those lower standards, you know, and catering to what is predominantly, you know, the ever-expanding foreign population in Ireland. Like, if we didn't have this ever-expanding foreign population in Ireland, would we still have Lidl and Aldis? Yes, we would. Would we have as many of them? Probably not, you know, because they are a lucrative customer base there for the likes of Lidl and Aldi and other big retail operations, of course. But yeah, it wasn't a good experience, put it that way. And it just struck me, there was so many things about it that smacked of really lower standards, lowering standards, dragging Ireland down to a lower level of standards than we should have, you know, and that people are used to. Like we shouldn't have this level of declining standards in Ireland, you know, but this is kind of what Lidl and Aldi are contributing towards, you know, from what I can see. And yeah, like it certainly wouldn't kind of have me rushing back to Aldi. Or Lidl is, I don't know, maybe the local Lidl is better, I don't know, I haven't been there in a good while. But the overall point is, you know, this kind of experience of lowering standards is not what Ireland is, you know. It's not a good sign for Ireland in terms going forward, like, you know. Like, even for people who are in favour of multiculturalism and in favour of non-stop mass immigration and so on, even for those people, surely they can also see these general kind of lower standards which are being kind of contributed towards by the likes of Lidl and Aldi. It's not good, you know. It's not a good situation. It's not a good development, and we should aim for better. We should aim for higher standards than what we're currently seeing in terms of these Lidl and Aldis popping up everywhere, which are predominantly hiring, you know, foreigners, mostly, not always, but a lot of non-Europeans, and are catering to that foreign population predominantly. And again, a lot of them will be non-European, and you're sort of, it's creating an environment and facilitating an environment that's increasingly non-Irish, and also non-European to an extent. But it's not a good development, and for people who care about Ireland generally going forward, I think it's something we should take note of, and something that we shouldn't, you know, that we shouldn't accept, really. You know, we deserve better than this. And yeah, I won't be rushing back to Aldi anytime soon, and I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone else either. And that's just a sad reality of it.